Hello, I'm Nick Evans. I'm from ExtraMile Communications. We're a multilingual web marketing company specializing in multilingual websites, email marketing, social media integration, and all that sort of thing. We're based up near Stafford, so up the M6, junction 14. And my job today is to talk to you about web internationalization for Europe and beyond. It's what we do, and so I'm hoping that you'll find this little talk interesting. So a little quote, and this is an actual quote from a guy I talked to at an exhibition a little while ago. He said, "My business is doing really well. 70% of our orders come from overseas, and we've got agents and distributors in every country who do all the talking in the local language for us. We're in the top 3 of Google results for our product and business, and it's growing gently. So why would I need to spend money on multilingual websites? I don't believe I need one. My English one is doing the job." Well, you can imagine I suggested that that might not be the whole story. So let's just get some stats first. There are about 3 billion internet users in the world at the moment. And of these, 1.7 billion are in the top 10 largest countries. Okay? That means there's another 1.3 billion out there who are not in those top 10, but we'll forget those for the moment. Now, if you take out the English-speaking people of the USA, India and UK, you're left with 1.1 billion people in those top countries who cannot read your website in English. So you're missing out on a big market, and if that's what you want to address. And the potential revenue from these internet users, this is consumers and businesses, public services and more, is a staggering £27 trillion. But with your English language website, you can only address 1/3 of it. I'm sure you'd be very happy with 1/3 of £27 trillion. But with that fact in mind, if your business relies on the possibility that someone in deepest Bulgaria can speak a bit of English and therefore will pass on your carefully crafted messages to your prospects and customers, then your company's future there is in very uncertain hands. It's in someone else's hands. How much better, how much more authoritative and welcomed would a Bulgarian version of your website be? Now, that might not be a core market for you, but, you know, France just across the channel, Spain, Italy, you know, the Nordics, perhaps less of a need there. And more so, your website will also be findable in Google in all of those countries. So getting it search engine optimizations, because your Google ranking for your website in the UK is totally irrelevant in any other country. So think about Google, because that's an important part of your strategy. Now, another question you should ask yourself is, how many products have you bought from a Chinese website lately? I'm betting not many. Why? Because, quite simply, you can't read the website. They could be one of the best potential partners that you could find for your business, but you'll never find them. Now, turn it the other way around. The people in China can't see your website, can't understand your website. You could be a good partner. People buy from people who are selling in their own language. And if you have expectations to export, you're going to need to target people in their own language in your target markets. A multilingual website shows your customers that you're serious and you're thinking about their needs. And if they feel you care about them, then they're more likely to trust you and therefore to buy from you. People rarely buy online from a store which is presented in a language they don't understand. So going multilingual has got to be part of a strategy. it's not just about your website. It's not a one-off. It includes your website, but also email communications, social media, and all the other media, brochures, documentation, support materials that you are used to address your partners in other countries. And that includes your distributors, your resellers, manufacturers, and obviously your customers. So let's think about strategy for a moment. So let's have some little questions. How many countries are you going to address? Because the more countries, the more complex the process is, and the greater number of variants. And do you have a team or multilingual partners to assist you in going multilingual? If you're in a larger company, is your senior management team bought into the idea, or is it you going it alone? And if you are the senior management, is the rest of the company bought in? Because everybody has got to think about being international. And what are your priorities? Where are you going to start from? How are you going to get going? And maybe really just ask yourself, why are you doing it? What are you hoping to achieve? Because setting your objectives first is going to be absolutely key to success, because without that, you won't know where you're going. And what's going to stop you? What's in your way of you doing that? All of those questions need to be thought about. Let's just talk about your website generally, first of all, because, you know, a lot of people treat the website, I said earlier, they treat it as a separate thing. They don't integrate it into their marketing strategy. So if you think of your website as a hub for everything that's driving into it, so you've got, for example, if you're promoting stuff online with pay-per-click ads or with banner ads on websites, then that's where those links, those clicks go through to. Similarly, search engines and your search engine optimization process is driving traffic at your website. Your website's the hub. That's where all the information sits. And then word of mouth, you know, referrals. When you're meeting people here, you give them a business card. You're sending them to your website, hopefully. My business card has got a little QR code on it. Someone can scan it with their phone, and it opens our website immediately. Offline media, you know, you might put adverts on the back of a bus. So that needs to have your web address on it, but TV, radio, print, whatever. Mobile search. Really important, perhaps not for the sort of marketplace that a lot of you will be in, but you know, if you're standing here and you want pizza, you type pizza into Google. You don't put pizza at the NEC, you just put pizza and it'll tell you where pizza is without any more ado. Social media. This is a two-way traffic. So things like Twitter and Facebook, these are the engine of the internet. Huge amounts of business are done on social media. Where does it drive you to? It drives you to your website. Your tweets, your posts need to include links to your website. That's where it's going to. And the same with email marketing. Again, this is a two-way traffic because people can respond to it, hopefully not just to say unsubscribe. And all of this traffic that's coming in from different sources helps to generate your sales leads for your sales team, driving your sales initiatives. So, and you can measure it all. This is the beautiful thing about your website with Google Analytics, and you can measure all of that. Now you take that to the next step with multilingual, internationalization. Obviously, you've got all of that, but more so. So let's just talk about the multilingual and multilingual or multiple websites. A real important question to ask yourself. Let's just have a think about that. Going multilingual isn't cheap. You need to think about your budget and how you are going to justify your budget in terms of the amount you spend and the return you're expecting to get back from it. Now, a lot of people say, they come to us and they say, we're going to address Germany as a new market. Can you duplicate our website and translate it? And we say, yes, we can. No problem. Duplicate the website. Someone comes in, we put all the translations in, all the products get translated. Great. You now have a German presence, hopefully with a .de URL, .de address, because you need that for Google, or at least a .com or a .eu. That's fine. What happens when you add a new product to your existing English website? Well, you've got to do the same again on the German one. Every time you make an edit here, you've got to make it there. You've got to keep all of this synchronized. Imagine now that that same customer who wanted the DE website doing says, actually, we've been so successful, we're going to go into Italy now. So we're going to duplicate the website again, and again, and again. And each time you do that, you are increasing the number of times that you have to, number of edits you have to make each time you update your website. Much better is an approach where you have a multilingual website. Generally speaking, this means starting again, which is not a message you want to hear, but it's the way it is. It's not as simple, but every time that you add stuff to the website, your multilingual website will have that product, that change in all countries. It might only have it in English to start with until you put the translation there, but at least your new product will appear. And all your navigation will be consistent, all your structure will be consistent, and you only have one website to update. So really important. So let's just think about how we go about translating, because the thing with multilingual websites is it's complex. So the way multilingual websites work is you have a corporate, what we call a corporate page. That's probably going to be your English website. So for every product, for every bit of your website, you've got the corporate, the English version. If you don't put in translations for any of those pages, then if you're navigating in Norway or in Italy or wherever, you will see the English. It'll be surrounded by Italian or Norwegian navigation. All the furniture of the website will be in that language, but that page will be in English. Until you add a layer, which is the translation. So we add a translated page for Italy. Now when you navigate to that page from the Italian version, you'll see Italian because you've put that translation layer there. If the translation layer is missing, you will see the English. So there's always content there every time you're updating your website. And translation's a big issue. It's a big issue because it's expensive. If you've got partners who can do translation for you, so you've got a reseller, for example, or you've got a partner company in your target country, and they can do translation, pay them to do it. They know your business. If you pay professional translators, particularly if your product is very technical, you'll be paying between 18 and 25 pence per word. So it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if you can find good translators within your team of partners, it's worth doing it. So why not use English? Well, for the reasons we've just said, but what is English? You know as well as I do that American English is very different from UK English. Australian English is, again, different. Where will you find this translatable voice? Because you've got to get a voice that speaks through language barriers and through cultural barriers. So the further south and east you go, the less likely people are to speak English. So it's fine. Nordics, they all speak English. Germany, most of them speak English. France, quite a few of them speak English. Start going down to Italy and Spain, you might think that they speak English from your experiences on holiday. No, that's waiters. Real people don't speak English down there. And if you go east, into former Eastern Bloc countries, you're on a no-hoper. So we need to localize as well as translate, because there's also cultural things, and let's talk a little bit about this. So getting our ducks in a row for translation and localization. Multilingual is nearly always multicultural as well. You've got to consider your target audience and what they are going to need from your website, and regional differences, even down to, is that product available in all these countries? So translation and localization really are two sides of the same coin. You first need to understand the need to localize, and you create your country variants in your website in English before you translate. So if you're adding particular products for particular countries or excluding products from some countries, then get all that done before you translate. Why? Because once it's translated, you won't know what it means. So you need to think, you don't know what it means, so you've got to get all those ducks in a row. Let's give you an example. Imagine, for instance, that you have an international car parts business. You're in 14 countries across Europe, and you're developing a new website. And all the countries have got the same website, but with some variations. So 3 countries don't sell audio because of local regulations. 2 countries sell through distributors, which serve car manufacturers and dealerships. 1 country hasn't got an online store, and some product substitutions are made for local preferences. You can see you've got so many differences here across that same website. Got to get all that sorted out first. And here's a reason why you need to localize. This is from a long time ago. This is a Valentine's mailer from Apple a long, long time ago. And it was a lovely mailer. You can tell it's a long time ago because of the products there. And it was brilliant, truly, madly, deeply. Absolutely fabulous. So different iPods for different levels of love. Absolutely useless in any other country other than English-speaking ones, because it relies on the film title, Truly, Madly, Deeply. It's a cultural thing. And in Spain, it was called Un Fantasma Enamorat. And in Germany, it was called Wie verrückt und aus tiefstem Herzen. So it doesn't work. It doesn't, and so we had to, we do these mailers for Apple. We had to come up with a new version, a new way of doing the same thing in each country, preferably using 3 words if we could. For some, we couldn't do it. So why don't we use Google Translate? If you've used Google Translate, you'll probably know the reason. We all like Garfield, don't we? It's all good fun. These cartoons have been translated from English into Chinese and then back again. And as you can see, it's gibberish. It's nonsense. Google Translate is great for just ordinary, plain, simple things that it's easy to understand. It's all about this translatable voice again. So as soon as you start getting technical, as soon as you start getting complex, it doesn't work. It'll give you a top-level idea. So, putting a Google Translate button on your website, if you're likely to have fast-changing product information and your translations might not keep up, it's worth doing, but don't expect people to get a lot of sense out of Google Translate. And when you're coming to translate, if you are paying a translator, or indeed if you're getting a partner to do it, you need to keep keep those translations. You know, if you're paying 25p a word for translation, you don't want to be translating the same phrase twice. So if you're using the same phrases over and over, start a translation library. And you can actually use an Excel spreadsheet to help you translate by putting the target content. This is the navigation for a website we did some time ago. There's the navigation headings down the side, and then here's all the different translations, and these are just single words or phrases. And you can do it for much more, you know, big chunks of content, and you need to separate it out. So headline, body content, call to action, pricing, all the different elements. Because as I say, once it's translated, you won't know which bit's which. So split it up into cells. And that way, your translator knows what they're doing. They put the bits into the cells. You know what you're doing when you're pasting it all back into the website. And you keep the spreadsheet as a resource so that you can reuse that content. Another thing about creating content in your website, if you've got a very tightly designed website with lots of small panels that have got bits of content in a very prescribed space, you are going to break your website as soon as you start translating. Because as you translate each bit, you can see the same phrases here in different languages. So you've got different lengths, and you've got big words that can split things up. So if we look at this one, for example, here's these big words that are splitting things up. Produktivitätsprogrammen, right? Splits that line, so you end up with ugly spaces. So either you've got to hyphenate, or you've got to find ways of getting the translator to look at the result of how they've translated so that they can balance it out a bit better. And don't forget, you're probably not just doing this for your computer, you're doing it for these things as well. So it needs to act responsively, appropriately, when you've got that content in. So yes, these big words here are breaking up the lines. Okay, so what pitfalls have we got? Well, it's about getting translation right, not just good. That's the priority. Does it use the right terminology? Is it said in the right way? Is it with due respect to the recipient of that content? You know, you can upset people just with your tone. Those of you who speak French, for example, will remember the tu and vous, the formal form of address and familiar form of address. Using the wrong one is bad news, and you need to know your audience and know how well you can address them. And things like idioms, they're great in English. It was a bit like the truly, madly, deeply thing. You know, quotations from Shakespeare's, film titles, and all of that sort of thing. Clever words and phrases that are idiomatic. You know, we have other fish to fry. What does that mean in any other language other than English? It means nothing. So you've got to avoid them and think about the translatable voice. Think about culture as well. We had an instance where a client was emailing to Spain and they were putting a game on this mailer that was all about Real Madrid, and we pointed out to them that by quoting Real Madrid in a mailer, they were instantly alienating half of Spain because obviously not everybody supports Real Madrid. And availability as well. You know, if you've got stuff on your website, is it in stock? Is it there? Have you got it in all countries? And what about currency? Currency, dates, holidays, all these things. Think about how you're going to present your currency. Think about how currency is going to vary with the value of the euro, for example, as you are addressing another country, but any other currency, how will your pricing change? Have you got the ability to do that globally by adding percentages or removing percentages from prices in line with the currency that you're using? And legals. We all, with our websites, follow UK law, but are we following international law? Need to think about local rules. For example, in Germany and Belgium, you can't say free. You can't say that something is free. You have to charge for it. Even if it's only 1 euro cent, you must charge. So that sort of pitfall. Let's talk about content very quickly now. So getting your ducks in a row. What are you going to translate? Are you going to translate, for example, your strapline for your company or not? What variability have you got in prices, which we've mentioned? Is everything available everywhere? So all of these things, how do you synchronize stuff as you launch it? How do you get that launch messaging out? Is everything going to be available when you launch this new product? Is it going to instantly be available in all the countries that you're addressing with your website? And there's another pitfall, and a lot of companies do this, where they have their website, and then they say to another partner in another country, you deal with a website for our products. Now that's fine. This is your sphere of influence. If you've got promotions and documentation, support stuff, web and email, all in your control, and France is all in your control as well, and so are all these other countries, that's great. You've got control over that, and with a multilingual website you will have. It's when you hand that control to someone else and they do it differently, and they're not following your guidelines, your values, you don't actually know whether they're reflecting your messages appropriately. And the same thing can apply in various ways for different countries. As you add countries into your portfolio, various variations can happen that will upset the apple cart. You need your website in your control, and certainly all of your communications as far as possible. It's your product. It's your baby. You wouldn't give your baby to a stranger and say, look after that. So what support's needed to make your website work? Well, you need to integrate it. You know, we were talking about the website as the hub. Everything needs to integrate with that website. It all needs to work together. And really the only way that's going to happen is if your strategy and your systems and all your quality controls and everything else works consistently. Getting all of that working together is really important. Finally, visitors. Now, this is a beaut. What do I call you? Okay. On a website generally, if you're getting people to sign up, we have forms where we say first name, last name, and then you put a username in and a password. It's great. What's wrong with that? Nothing at all. Okay, let's start with this lady. We call her Björk. Her name is built up from her father's name, patronymic, and daughter of, and she's got a given name. Okay, that's fine. Our form works all right. Right, now this one might be a bit more difficult because he's got a family name and a generational name and a given name. Right, not sure how, will he put Mao Dong? I don't know. What about this lady? She's doing what 95% of people in Europe do when they fill in a form for giving them putting their name in. She puts her surname, her family name first, and then her given name. Our form doesn't work for her. What about Maria Jose? Which name is she going to put in the form, and how are we going to know what to call her if she does fill in the form? This guy I love. All right? What's he going to put in our first name and last name? Now, you know, you look at websites that people are putting up and our forms say first name and last name. And it's not only hopeless for international, it's hopeless in the UK. We're a multicultural society, it doesn't work. So what you actually need is a form that says, what's your full name? Let's have your full name so we know who you are. And then say, what shall I call you? If I speak to you or if I send you an email, what should I call you? That way you give them the problem because they know what you should call them. And you then are sure that you're calling them the right thing when you send them an email, when you send them a letter or whatever. So, and there's a whole raft of other little things like don't auto-capitalize things in forms. Don't restrict the characters to be used. You know, in fact, you need to extend the character set so that it includes non-Roman characters. People with accented characters in their name are not all captured by normal Roman character set. Don't restrict the field length. You know, people need to put in their full name. And remember that people put their family name first in many countries. So what do you do next? Where are you going to go now? You need to evaluate your marketplace and know where you're going to go. You need to get a strategy together for going international. You need to consider languages, cultures, and the context that your website's going to go into. You need to look at your budget. I'm really sorry, folks, but you do. And you need to find a good online partner that specializes in multilingual. Oh, here's one I prepared earlier. There we go. Thank you very much.